They push that down in front of the whole market people. Stupid woman. Adams is married to an OBO woman in London. He has forgotten you exist. I will never come back and marry you. He's gone and gone forever. Village girl. They threw dirty water on her in the village square. Called her a mad woman. A nobody. She wiped her face and said nothing. Like a pig in a sty. Serves you right for being clumsy. Stay with me. This story will shock you. Let me tell you how it all began. Before we begin, this story is an original creation by African Tales by AJ. Any duplication or unauthorized use of this story is prohibited. Enjoy the story ahead, and please don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more beautiful stories. Let me take you back 10 years before that Sunday morning, before the humiliation, before Adams left the city with a promise that you're yet to come, before the village stood with their mouths open like they had forgotten how to close them. Let me take you back to when it all started. Mina woke up every morning before the sun, not because she wanted to, but because if she didn't fetch water before the other women arrived at the stream, they would pour on the ground just to watch her fetch again. That was the kind of village it was. She was 26 years old, unmarried, living in a small mud house at the edge of the compound, a house that belonged to her late father, a house that 3 families had tried to take from her by force, a house she refused to leave. They called her useless because Adams left. That was the reason, the whole reason. In that village, a woman's value was tied to the man who stayed beside her, and Adams had not stayed. Adams Obi had been the most promising young man in Mui village. Brilliant, hard-working, everyone loved him, and he had loved Mina quietly, deeply, the way rivers love their banks, steady and patient. They were to be married, but 3 days before the wedding, Adams disappeared. No letter, no goodbye, no explanation. The village woke up one morning and Adams was simply gone. And the story that spread, the story that Mama Koo and her group told at every market, every church meeting, every gathering was that Adams had seen since that he had realized Mina was beneath him, that he had run. Even Adams knew she was nothing. Mama Koo would say, adjusting her head tie with satisfaction. And Adams was a wise man. For 10 years, Mina heard this. For 10 years, she sold tomatoes at the market, 200 naira profit, on a good day. She mended clothes for people who paid her late. She carried water. She planted yam. She survived. And she said nothing. The other women whispered that she was waiting for Adams. They laughed about it. She's still waiting. They'd say, 10 years, and she's still waiting for a man who ran from her. They did not understand. Mina was not waiting the way a fool waits. She was waiting the way someone waits when they know something nobody else knows. On the worst days, when Mama Kemi's daughter threw spoiled water on her wrapper, when the landlord raised her rent without warning, when the church women moved to the other bench, Mina would go home, sit on her wooden stool, and open a small tin box under her bed. Inside that box were 5 letters written in Adam's handwriting. The last one arrived just 3 months ago. She touched it gently, the way you touch something precious. Then she whispered the same thing. She always whispered. Soon, very soon. Mama Kem was not just a cruel woman. She was an organized cruel woman. There's a difference. A random cruel person hurts you when the mood strikes. Mama Kem had a system, a schedule, like cruelty was her business, and she ran it well. Monday morning, she would position herself near the market entrance. When Mina arrived with her tomatoes, Mama Kem would announce loudly for everyone to hear, "The abandoned woman is here. Make way for the woman Adams ran from." The market women would laugh, some uncomfortably, most without shame. Wednesday evenings, it was the church women's meeting. Mina attended every week. Every week, Mama Kem would ensure Mina sat alone. One whisper here, one look there, and the bench beside Mina would stay empty. Sundays were the worst. After service, the women gathered under the big mango tree to talk, to share food, to belong to each other. Mina would stand at the edge of that circle, never fully inside, never fully outside, holding her small plate, eating alone, while the laughter belonging floated past her like smoke she could not catch. Why did Mina stay? That was what nobody could understand. She had a distant uncle in Enugu. She could have left, started fresh somewhere, Nobody knew her name. Nobody knew the story of Adams, but she stayed. And when people asked, when they bothered to ask, she would smile the smallest smile and say, "This is my father's house. I am not the one who should leave." It sounded like stubbornness, like pride, like foolishness. It was none of those things. Mama Kem had 2 sons and one secret. Her elder son, Chitty, had wanted to marry Mina years ago, before Adams, before everything. Mina had refused him kindly, but clearly. Some people say that is where the hatred started, that it was never about Adams, that Adams was just the excuse Mama Kem needed to make Mina pay for that refusal. But there was something else. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes Mina would catch Mama Kem looking at her, not with hatred, not with the usual contempt, but with something that sat beneath all of that, like a stone under shallow water. Fear. It was quick, a flash, like a woman who had said too much and was trying to take it back. But Mina saw it. She had seen it many times over 10 years. Why would Mama Kem fear someone she called useless? Mina never said anything about it. She stored it quietly in the same place. She stored everything. In the same place she stored her 5 letters. In the same place she stored her patience. Then one Tuesday morning, a black car drove slowly into Moise. It stopped in front of Mama Kem's compound first. Then it reversed and asked for Mina. The man who stepped out of that black car was not from Moise. Everything about him said so. His shoes were too clean for village roads. His shirt had no sweat stains despite the afternoon heat. He carried a slim brown envelope under his arm like it contained something important, like it contained something that could change things. He looked around the compound slowly, taking everything in. Then he asked a young boy drawing water from the well, "Where's Mina's house?" The boy pointed. By the time the stranger reached Mina's door, half the village was already watching. Market women had left their stalls. Children had stopped their games. Mama Kem stood at her window, very still. Her eyes narrowed like someone trying to read a letter from a distance. Mina opened the door before he knocked. She was calm. That was what confused everyone watching. No surprise on her face. No panic. Just a quiet, steady calm like a woman who had been expecting a visitor and was simply glad he had finally arrived. "You are from Adams," she said. It was not a question. The stranger smiled. He said you would know, too. They went inside. Outside, the village nearly lost its mind. Did she say Adams? Which Adams? Our Adams, but Adams left. Adams is gone. Mama Kem left her window. She walked quickly to her neighbor's house. Her neighbor Nazi had been one of the 3 women who sat closest to her at church. They spoke in low voices. Their hands moved too fast. Their eyes kept going back to Mina's door.
Then he visited Chidinma's father, the same man who had once called Emeka personally to thank him for taking care of their daughter. Emeka sat across from him respectfully and laid everything on the table. 2 years of rent, groceries, medical bills, all paid while Obinna was being presented to the family as her partner. The father was shattered. He confronted Chidinma publicly at a family gathering. Obinna, learning the full picture of what had been hidden from him, ended the relationship quietly and quickly. Chidinma lost both men and her family's trust in the same season. Emeka accepted a promotion and relocated to Abuja. He sent her family one short note before he left. "No hard feelings. But your daughter owes herself better than what she showed me." Then he moved forward and never looked back. Sohn was a logistics manager in Lagos who had been Beezy's emergency contact for 4 years. She called him when rent was due, when her car broke down, when her niece needed school fees. On hard days, she was warm and close. On good days, she disappeared. Sohn told himself she was complicated. She wasn't complicated. She was comfortable, with him paying and someone else staying. The day everything ended, Sohn arrived at her apartment unannounced during what she had called a family emergency. He found her laughing on the balcony with a man named Rodamai, surrounded by food and drinks he had sent money for that very same morning. He turned around and drove home. He didn't shout. He didn't call. He sat with his friend Lonra, a lawyer, and did the maths. For years of emergencies, he mapped the pattern. Beezy's crises always clustered when Rodamai went quiet or traveled. Sohn was the cushion between chapters of someone else's love story. He had been funding the intervals. He invested everything. He would have sent her into a small transport business with Lonra. 3 months passed in silence. Then Beezy called, new emergency, familiar tone. He picked up, listened politely to the whole story, then said quietly, I think you should call Rodomai. He hung up. He never called again. Rodomai eventually left Beezy for someone else. Without Sohn as her safety net, real consequences arrived for the first time in years. She wrote to him. He read the letter. He didn't respond. His transport business was growing. He was sleeping well. He was, for the first time in a long time, completely at peace. Namdi was a government surveyor from Akka. Steady, humble, unglamorous. He paid Ojachukwa's bills faithfully while she told her elite friends he was just a friend and introduced Ikachukwu, a broke event promoter with expensive taste, as the man she deserved. Namdi knew he wasn't flashy. He didn't know he was being hidden. He found out the same way many quiet men find out, by accident, through a door left slightly open. He overheard Ojachukwu on the phone laughing with a girlfriend. Namdi will send the money. He's too simple to ask questions. Ikachukwu and I need this weekend. He stood still in the hallway. He said nothing. He went to work the next morning as usual. Then he stopped. Not all at once. Quietly, strategically, the way a man thinks when he finally decides to think. He redirected every naira he would have given her into completing a land purchase he had been delaying. Land outside Akka in a rapidly developing corridor. He told no one. When Ojachukwa's rent fell due and Namdi didn't respond to her calls, she went to his office to confront him, and found him in a meeting with investors about his new property. She realized then that the man she called too simple had been building quietly the entire time she dismissed him. She tried to reconcile. He declined gently but completely. Ikachukwa's events business failed. Ojachukwa struggled publicly. Namdi broke ground on his property development and married Adana, a teacher who had always called him remarkable, in a ceremony held without Ojachukwa's name on a single invitation. Tund was a produce trader from Ekiti who had been supporting Sada's family for 5 years. Her mother's medication, her brother's school fees, her father's farm supplies. Her family called him a son. They prayed for him by name. They had no idea that inside their own compound, their daughter was telling Femi, a younger man in their town, that Tund was just an old friend passing through. The truth came from Sada's own brother Tosin, a boy who genuinely loved Tund. During a casual visit, Tosin mentioned Ani Sada's man Femi, without thinking, then froze when he saw Tund's face. Tund asked gently. Tosin, with tears filling his eyes, told him everything he knew. Tund did not go to Sad. He went to her parents. He sat before them respectfully, laid out 5 years of support with receipts, and formally withdrew. Not with anger, not with accusations, just with quiet dignity. He asked for nothing back. He only wanted them to know the truth. The parents were devastated in a way that went far beyond embarrassment. They confronted Saad in front of the family. Femi, who had never known the real story of Tund's role in keeping that household alive, was disturbed by the layers of deception and pulled away. Saad lost both men and her family's respect within days. Tund expanded his business and hired Tosin, Sada's own brother, as a gesture of grace that everyone in the community noticed. He married Falasaid Adiinka from a neighboring village whose family had watched everything unfold and told their daughter simply, "That man has character." She agreed. Chidi was a self-made entrepreneur from Onitsha who loved his wife Ngozi without suspicion. When she asked to have her name added to the business early in their marriage, saying it made her feel like she truly belonged, he agreed without hesitation. He loved her. He trusted her. He did not see what she was constructing underneath his generosity. His accountant raised the alarm first. Money leaving a company account, moving through Ngozi's personal account, then disappearing into a man named Obiora. Investigation revealed Obiora was not a supplier. He was a man Ngozi had been entangled with for 3 years. She had been funding his import business with Chidi's money, disguising the transfers as consultancy payments. She had used her position in the business, the position Chidi had freely given her, to quietly build another man's future. Chidi took 3 days. He consulted his lawyer, his accountant, and one trusted family elder. He moved key business assets into a separate legal structure. He documented everything without revealing that he knew. Then he handed Ngozi a formal separation agreement through his lawyer. No shouting, no scene, no public drama. When she said it was a misunderstanding, he showed her the audit. When she said she still loved him, he showed her the transfers. Obiora stopped responding to her calls the moment her business access ended. The divorce proceeded. Ngozi contested and lost significantly given the documented financial misconduct. Chidi rebuilt, leaner, sharper, more deliberate. At his company's 5th anniversary celebration, he gave a speech about resilience. His partner Uchenna sat beside him. Ngozi watched through a mutual contacts account, alone on a quiet evening, with nothing left to show for the years she spent dismantling a good man. Jabari was a young carpenter from a village in the Kenyan highlands, and everybody in that community knew.